to get it started, want to talk about those changes. Jiri Prohaska apparently had the worst shoulder injury in UFC history, and the fight is now off. Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz is now the main event, and now for the vacant belt. Apparently, they offered Glover Teixeira the Magomed fight for the belt, but he turned it down and said he needed more time for that. What do you make of that, Lucas? Because I think it's really interesting they turned that fight down. Do you think he's scared or something, or what? You think he
I
saw
don't
the
think he's
financial
scared.
news?
What I think that he was probably injured going into the fight with Yuri, but
Mhm.
because he's already fought Yuri once and because he's been preparing for Yuri for like let's say the past year and a half, I think he was more willing to risk going into that injured, especially because his game plan against Yuri is grappling. Maybe his injury affects him more in the striking, and maybe he knows that Magomed's a little bit harder to take down. It's a different opponent, like a different kind of striking. And because of that, I feel like he may have said, fuck, I'm already injured. Like, it's even more risky to take on a whole new opponent. But if that's not the case, then he dropped the ball because, unless he is injured, unless that's literally the case, and he was going to fight Yuri injured, because he knows Yuri well, then he just blew a shot at the title. He blew that because the only reason he was getting another title shot was because, he had a good fight with Yuri Prohaska, but now Yuri Prohaska isn't even the champ. So it's like, who knows if he'll ever even get a title shot again? He'll probably have to get a number one contenders fight. I think that Yuri will get a title shot when he comes back, because I think, I mean, he vacated the belt. And I just want to say, there's no other guy in the UFC that would vacate that belt. Like, unless the UFC strip someone of a belt, like, no one is going to voluntarily vacate. Like, that's just not how it works. Unless you're leaving the sport and retiring, that just doesn't happen. And, Yuri Prohaska, you know, I guarantee you he'll be making a comeback in 2024, early 2024, maybe even late 2023. The fact that he's vacating, honestly, it kind of pisses me off because I like him as a champion, but we're not going to see him for a long time, and that's just going to get annoying. So I kind of respect it, but I think that I think he has the mindset to become champ again, but it sucks because he's going to have to get it off of Magomed and Ankalaev because I think he's going to win. And how do you even view Magomed as a real champ if he's taking it off of Jan Blachowicz, who lost to Glover? Glover lost to Yuri. How are you going to really treat him as a true champ? So, I think Magomed's going to win the belt, defend it, and then I think he'll fight Yuri. But I just think it's a shame, and Glover may have just blew his last chance at getting a title shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is for sure a shame. I think it's sad. I think it shows that Yuri will be out for a while, not just a few months, not just a year, probably like a year and a half or 2 years, honestly. I mean, not 2 years, probably not, but probably a year and a half. So I think that's a shame. Yuri's very entertaining to fighter to watch. One of my top five fighters I look forward to watch fight. So it's a shame. I was really looking forward to this Glover matchup. So that's a shame. But I think at the end of the day, Magomed was going to become the champion sooner than later. So I guess it's kind of just fast tracking. But I am like we talked about it last week though, like this matchup overall. Like I'm excited for the Magomed Jan Blachowicz matchup, and I think this just made it even more exciting though, especially as a 5 rounder. Um, we talked about it I think I mentioned it last week that I think that they should make the Jan Blachowicz the Magomed fight 5 rounds.
5 rounds.
And then look, that's what it's going to be. Do you think that benefits either one of these guys, or do you think it not really doesn't really make a difference?
I don't think it makes a difference because Magomed Ankalaev and Jan have both gone 5 rounds, and Jan has done it more often, but I think Magomed Ankalaev is a little bit more of an active striker over 5 rounds. But I think that I think it both of these guys have been training for a 3 round fight, so I'd have to say it's pretty even. Magomed is the younger guy, so maybe it benefits him. But, to be honest, I just don't see Jan Blachowicz winning this one. I really don't. It would be cool if he did. It'd also be cool if he did because I think that Jan Blachowicz would be a little bit more entertaining as a champion. But to be fair, I just can't believe that we have the most entertaining fighter, pound for pound most entertaining fighter in the UFC, as a champion. Like, how often does that happen that the most entertaining, crazy fighter actually becomes champ and
Yeah.
he doesn't even get to defend because he has the worst injury in UFC history that's
Yeah.
related to his shoulder? It's just so sad, man. And who knows if he'll even ever be the same? Who knows if he'll ever even be the same? Uh, I think Yuri needs to get on the sauce like Connor now so he could recover quickly. I
Exactly.
mean,
Who knows?
but
They
it's
tested
sad.
that out apparently. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean it is sad, and I was trying to rewatch some of Magomed's fights to, I guess, some get a little like I don't know. I mean, just kind of like I guess just like I was first I was like looking at his Samba matches because I saw that he was like a real good Samba fighter, whatever you call it. So I was looking at that, then a bunch of Magomed fights came up. So I was watching some of his fights, and they're just so boring. And like, that's gonna be our champion, like, kind of
Yeah.
sucks. I mean, like, obviously he's a great fighter and stuff, and obviously the Anthony Smith fight was a bit more entertaining. So I'm hoping that the Blachowicz fight will be more entertaining. A future Jamal Hill fight will be pretty entertaining. It could have been the opponents too, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
So
think that definitely played a part,
yeah,
because he fought Anthony Smith and I think that was a good fight. I mean, it wasn't a great fight from Anthony Smith, but I think anyone that really tries to bring it
I think
is
he'll
gonna
come.
bring it, is gonna make it entertaining with Magomed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about Magomed. Also, I think it's now going to be 5 rounders, so maybe he'll start turning it up a little bit towards the end of the fights. So, yeah, but I mean, in terms of his last, like, whatever, 10, 11 UFC fights, they've all been pretty boring, to be honest. And you look at his record, and there's a bunch of decision wins. So it's kind of a shame that we don't have the guy who's in all of his UFC fights have literally has had a finish. So, yeah, it's a shame, but it was gonna happen at some point. But in terms of this matchup, yeah, I don't see how Blachowicz wins. I think Magomed's on a completely different level. And I
He
think
has to he has to like
I don't know what he
he has
has
to
to do,
not get taken down at all.
but
And
like
but I
that's
just don't think that happens.
I think Magomed on the feet dominates Blachowicz too. I mean, I just think I also Blachowicz' chin is just not the
Yeah.
same anymore, and Magomed's got some real power, And also Magomed, the thing about him is that he's so like unorthodox, just his fighting style, and I think it makes it so difficult to like. I think that was one of the reasons why Glover didn't want to take the fight. He's such a tricky opponent to figure out, and I think Jan could really struggle with that. Not that Jan's a bad like Jan's just a bit more like basic like Muay Thai kind of fighter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You pointed out something about the leg kicks with Jan checking a bunch of them. I could see that happening, but at the same time, I think if he's checking the leg kicks, I think he'll come up with like he'll be creative enough to figure it out. Maybe go to the body with some kicks, maybe even go for the head. I mean, he has that ability. So I think Jan Blachowicz is really going to struggle with the creativity. I think he's not going to be able to avoid the takedowns, and yeah, I think it's going to be a long night for him. I think it ends up being a fourth round TKO. That's my new prediction, I would
I think
say.
it's gonna be a fourth round TKO. I think it's gonna come earlier. I think that Magomed Ankalaev is going to finish him by submission, or I
Submission.
know I'm not picking how it's going to be done because I'm saying submission or TKO. I genuinely think that, sure, Jan Blachowicz big power, but I just get the idea, and even though, Magomed's been dropped, like I just get the idea that he still has a pretty good chin.
Yeah.
So I think Jan's chin is getting worse because he's getting older. And to be honest, unless he's perfect, and I just don't see him knocking Magomed out, I don't think he wins. So I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev by a second or third round KO. And if that doesn't happen, I think Magomed Ankalaev may just take Jan Blachowicz down and beat him up on the ground and then submit him. So I'm going to go with a finish for Magomed Ankalaev. I'm going to say second or third round finish. I have to watch some more of his fights and his grappling to determine whether or not it'll be a submission. But I'm gonna go with a finish from Magomed. You know, to be honest, man, I'd love to see Jan Blachowicz knock him out and just defy the odds. But Yeah, it's gonna be Magomed. I think he's gonna win this one. I mean, he ain't too bad, but it's just another guy with who doesn't speak English. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Blachowicz is a fun champ, you know. The
yeah.
Adesanya fight. I mean, I thought that was kind of entertaining, you know. He was
It was
beating
that was a good fight.
5 rounds. The Glover fight was entertaining. When he won the belt against Reyes is entertaining. I mean, all of Jan's fights are actually really entertaining, to be honest. He fought Rakic, a guy who's traditionally really boring, and kind of made it somewhat interesting. So I
He's
think
a
that's
he's a great counter striker. Like I really like Jan's boxing. So
yeah,
I
he's
just don't think he'll be fast enough, man. Like he's really powerful. I just don't know if he'll be fast enough.
yeah, and I think his chin. Magomed has some real power. You know, I think yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah, I mean yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know if I really mind Magomed being champ. I mean, like I do, like I like the
He's not
idea.
an interesting champ. I
Yeah,
just want to mention this. I think that the division is only as interesting as the champ, to be honest.
yeah, that I would say so.
He's
Yeah,
just not an interesting champion. I feel like it just kind of deadens the division, to be honest.
yeah,
Like,
like kind of like the 55 division.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's not even necessarily only their fight. I mean, it's just he has no star potential whatsoever, and it's kind of nice that a champion can be somewhat of a star. Magomed Ankalaev has like 200K, 300K on Instagram maybe, but I mean, he might have 500K when he's. I mean, like,
He's not
dude,
like
I have fucking. I'm almost passing him up.
yeah.
I
Um,
don't know. I just wish that, and it's hard because he speaks Russian. He doesn't speak any other language, and I'm sure he's a cool guy, but dude, he's not like a presence on social media, and you just can't do that these days. You have to be a presence on social media. He's
yeah,
just another copy paste Dagestani fighter, to be honest. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just unfortunate because I like the idea of him being champion. Like, I think like I like the dominance factor, but you look at his record and it's just like decision, decision, decision. Like, that's just not that entertaining. You know what I mean? Like, whole
yeah,
draft, he's just gonna have these like. I feel like him when he's champ, these guys are gonna be nervous to really engage too much with him.
he has no charisma, bro.
Exactly. Yeah, no charisma. Like his fight style, he's very slow, and if you do pressure him, I mean he'll finish you right away. So people
Yeah.
see like okay, like I don't want to pressure him, so they'll be hesitant. And I think we're gonna continue to see slow fights with him as a champion, kind of similar to Israel Adesanya when he was champ. But the only difference is like Israel at least is entertaining outside of the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And another thing I want to mention, it's like Magomed kind of gives me the like Bellator champion vibes. Like for sure he's good and I respect his skills, but like no one really gives a fuck about him that much. So that's the issue. And I like it when there's a champion with some hype to his name. Like, I mean,
Islam at least has some hype, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Islam at least has a big fan base, but like no one's really a big Magomed. Like, would anyone say Magomed Ankalaev is their favorite fighter? No, unless he's in your family, no one would say that, or unless it's his friend. No
yeah,
one, not a single guy on this planet would think Magomed Ankalaev is my favorite fighter.
yeah,
No,
definitely.
no hate to him. Like he's a great fighter. He's skilled. Like we're both picking him to become champion. We were gonna pick him against Jiri. So I
Yeah,
just want Yuri to be champ. Like I just feel like he's such a good champion for the sport. You know, People love his fights. It's a shame, man. I honestly, this was some of the worst news I've heard in a long time about in regards to MMA. It really sucked because I was, even though I wasn't that hyped for Yuri and Glover, like I'm always excited for a Yuri fight. And now we may never get the same Yuri. And one thing that made him entertaining was the fact that he was so good even against the top guys. Like his style being so wild, it's impressive that it actually works against the top guys. So it may not work anymore against the top guys because this
or who
injury
knows if
may
we'll
ruin
even
him.
do that style anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very unfortunate. I mean, this year as a whole with injuries, like it's been an awful year. You look at Yair versus Ortega, you look at Blades versus Aspinall, like you look at I mean, even what's his name?
Calvin Cater,
Alvin Cater, you look at who else? Who's the guy?
Rakic.
Package? Like, there's just so many injuries like that keep happening this year, and we keep getting robbed of these.
At least it didn't happen in the first round of the fight.
Oh yeah, that would have been
That
even.
would that would be even worse.
Yeah, that would be awful. But yeah, I mean, like the UFC, like we just keep getting robbed of these huge fights. It's a shame, but hopefully 2023 there's a bit better luck. I feel like this card as a whole is just kind of cursed in my opinion, kind of.
Yeah.
It
It was
was
too good to be true, to be honest.
Yeah, and also I mean also the fact that you're supposed to have Stipe versus Jones on
Yeah.
that card, their whole nonsense with that. Then this fight was just called off. Like it's a shame, but yeah, I mean like too good to be true. So yeah, I mean I'm still excited for this card. I mean, this matchup I was definitely looking forward to more than the Yuri versus Glover fight anyways. So it being a 5 rounder main event kind of excites me though. But yeah, like it'll be interesting to see how many pay-per-views this card does sell with Magomed being the main event versus Yuri. So I don't think it's going to do too well. But I mean, Patty the Batty's on the card still. Till was now moved to the first fight on the pay per view, which I think was foolish that he wasn't on it in the first place. But yeah, I still think it's a pretty good card, start to bottom to top or start to finish, whatever you want to call it. And I'm still really looking forward to it.